Well, hello electronics geeks, welcome back to my channel and part 2 of me trying to repair this Pioneer SPEC-4 stereo power amplifier. The parts I've ordered, the replacement parts, have finally arrived. I got 2 more matched pairs of driver transistors for the final output stage, and I've got some silicone heat sinks here. I'm going to try these instead of the mica and thermal transfer grease that's been used on these in the past, because I talked to my buddy and apparently this has happened at least several times before, and I suspect we're just not getting good heat transfer to the heat sink, or he's not getting good airflow through the back of the unit to cool the heat sink. I suspect that could be the problem here. So I'm going to try these, and we'll see if these work any better. They're very, very thin, and they're really good at transferring heat. And a lot of modern equipment uses them instead of the mica and the transfer grease. So we'll try that. So I'm going to have to get these old insulators off of here, the ones that stayed on, and clean up the grease, which is now cleverly getting all over my fingers, and get this all prepped for putting in the new transistors. So that's what I'm going to start on right now. Okay, I got all the old mica insulators off. Now it's a matter of cleaning up all this old grease in here, which has gone hard. Probably not doing a very good job transferring heat anyway. And then we can put the new transistors in place with the new insulators. Yeah, this is all hard and caked on there. I'm sure it wasn't doing much good. Also, you know, compared to these new insulators, oh, these mica ones are so thick by comparison. These silicone ones are so thin. I'm sure that these transfer the heat better, just by virtue of being so much thinner than the mica ones. Okay, that's pretty good, pretty clean. Alright, so let me get the transistors mounted. What did I do with the screws for mounting the transistors? Here they are. Okay, now where I can get at them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's all. Okay, good. Alright. So, oh, this is sealed up like Fort Knox here. Seemed like it took forever to get these parts, but I went back and I looked. It's only been 5 days since I posted the first half of this video. Now, I shot the video a day or 2.5 before it was posted. So, still, I guess it hasn't been that long since I ordered the parts. It just seems like it because I was impatiently waiting for them to arrive. So I've got 2 more. So I've got 2 new 2SD 424s and 2 new 2SB 554s. So they need to be mounted in there, and I cleverly marked the heat sink with which goes where. The 424s go here and the 554s go over here. Okay. So, see if we can. 424, 424. Right. That's the correct orientation. I gotta hold the back of the socket while I push the transistor in. Okay. Yeah, because the mounting screws were really the only things holding the transistor sockets in too, so mounting screws came out, the sockets are just floating in there. Sorry if this is kind of out of your view. Basically, I'm trying to get this screw started in here. It is not cooperating. There we go. This is really slightly larger screwdriver than I need for this job. I don't know where my smaller one went. Somebody might have borrowed it. To look around. I think that's started. Has it? I think so. They're just really long screws. Okay, that one's cinching down. You know what? I don't think this screw is tightening up. Now that might be part of the problem. I just don't think it's aligned right. Okay. Yeah, the socket's not aligned right in there. I can see that it's twisted. Let me loosen this screw back up. Huh. Oh, I see. One of the transistor legs is not going into the socket. Yeah. Slightly bent. Okay. Straighten the legs out. See if I can't really even get my finger in there very well. Got big hands. This thing was not built on my scale. Oh, that's much better. Okay, that feels like that went in right now. Let's see if I can get the screws started. I think we're getting it this time. Okay, yeah. I do believe we're getting it this time. Like I said, the sockets are just floating in there. There's nothing to hold them in place, so I got to get everything lined up. Now we're tightening up. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So one thing which may have contributed to the problem was that these screws were not cinched down tight on at least one of the transistors. They were loose. That'll cause you no end of troubles with thermal transfer. Okay, so there's one. 3 more to go. I'll be back when they're all in. Won't make you watch it. Alright, all 4 of the new transistors have been mounted. One thing I noticed with these pink silicone insulators is they're a little delicate. I managed to tear the corner off of one, trying to peel it off of the backing here. So you got to be kind of careful with them. Before I do anything else, I want to make sure that none of the transistor leads are shorted to the insulator here, or none of the are shorted to the heat sink here, just to make sure that none of the legs are touching on the inside of the hole or anything like that. So And I was getting set up for that, and I noticed a couple of wires going to something bonded to the heatsink, and I see that there's a couple of thermistors in here. So they don't look like they're designed for cutoff, like if the thing gets too hot to shut it down. It may just be some sort of temperature compensation circuit to make the amplifier little more linear with temperature changes, I think. So, might have been a good idea to put a thermal cutout in it too, but I don't think that's what's there. Okay, well, enough musing on things I really don't understand. Let's just make sure that we don't have any short circuits to the heatsink here. That's good. Okay, and we no longer have short circuits. Well, that's supposed to be shorted there. We no longer have shorts between the three terminals of the transistor. So we are good as far as I can tell. I think this module is fixed. Gonna have to rearrange my workbench, get the chassis back up here, and we'll do some testing on this thing just to make sure before I put it all back together. Well, I was hoping to do some testing on the module outside of the chassis, but some of the connectors don't have cables on them long enough to bring it outside. And I was afraid I was going to take it all apart again to get it inside, but I see now that actually with a little care, you can get a module in and out without disassembling the whole rear end of the chassis. At least you can get this one in and out. There seems to be even less in the way of that one, so yeah, that's good. So I'm going to have to bolt it back in so I can reconnect a couple of Molex plugs on it and get signals into it. And we'll see what happens when I fire it up. But I got to get a bunch of screws back in to hold this module in place and reconnect those Molex connectors and reconnect the signal output from the final stage to the plug to the jacks on the back. So let me get all that done, then we'll be back. Okay, I think I've got everything reconnected. Getting these Molex connectors back on down here and getting the wire fed back into its connector, the output wire fed back into its connector and tightened down was not easy with the module in place. So yeah, but I managed to do it. And while I've got the back of the thing up and I'm thinking about it, so I don't forget, I got to put a new 6 amp fuse in here. And then we can move on to testing. But first I think I'm going to put a few load resistors. Fingers crossed that there's no smoke, no fire, no explosions, okay? So let's see, the wires are not shorted out over here. They're good. This is good. Okay. Power switch is in the off position. Okay. Plug it in. Okay, we're plugged in. So what we want to watch that's the fuse right there that blew. So let's see what happens when I turn this back on. Oh, the fuse is not blown. Okay. I hear crackling. Crackling coming from somewhere. The fuse didn't blow, but I hear crackling. And I smell something. I think we did let this magic smoke out of something. Something on the left channel. Okay. Alright. You didn't see it on camera, but the lights lit up on the meters over here. So, yeah, that worked. But something has let go on this board, I think. I heard crackling, turned the power off, and now I smell smoke. So something, I'm going to have to pull this module back out and see if I can figure out what went bad this time. Oh, geez. This is, hate not being an audio guy and we can give it a job like this. Okay. You see if I can figure it out. Well, I got the module back out. It's easy once you know the trick. Fairly quick, too. It certainly smells like something went up in flames, but I don't see anything obvious on the board. And this resistor looks like it gets hot. Actually, you know what? No. I think that resistor's been hot for a long time. I suppose I shall have to check all of these transistors again. But I don't see anything obvious. I mean, caps don't look bad. No burned transistors that I can see. No burned anything that I can see, but boy, yeah, there's a barbecue going on in there somewhere. No components on the back of the board. So, I guess I shall just have to start probing around and see what I can find. Once I find a bad component, maybe it'll look obviously bad. Okay, start probing. I've got the left channel module out again. I've reviewed the footage of the test. And looking at it from the same angle, trying to figure out where all that sparking was, amazingly, I don't see any obviously damaged or burned components on there in the area where the arcing came from. That is really amazing considering the sparks we saw on the video and all the smoke I could smell. That nothing looks damaged, but something obviously is. So I'm going to have to test some components on this thing and see if I can figure out what let the smoke out. So last time we blew out one transistor on this side and one transistor on this side. This time we blew out both the transistors on this side. So I'm thinking that may be the reason that the fuse did not blow. Because if you blow one transistor on each side, you basically wind up with a short across the plus and minus 70 power supply, plus and minus 70 volt power supply. It is 140 volts, so you're going to blow the fuse, I'm sure. But we only wound up blowing 1/2 of that. And, okay. And we blew some other stuff up here that wasn't blown up when I got the thing. So I've done extra damage, which, you know, I'm not happy about. So I'm looking at the schematic after doing some probing around. It looks like a lot of the transistors on the lower half of the module now are burned out that weren't before. Now there is something I didn't test last time. This funky dual transistor thing right here, Q1. I didn't test it for two reasons. Number one, I couldn't find it. I hunted and hunted for it on this board. And then when I did find it, by process of elimination, I figured it had to be under this encapsulation right here because there's no other place for it. And, you know, based on where it is in the schematic, whether the components are near it, I figure it has to be under this encapsulation here. Yeah, it's encapsulated in something rubbery that's starting to go sticky. So I did not test that. Probably I should have. The only way I can get to the leads to test it though is I'm going to have to take the board off of the heat sink, which I shouldn't have been too lazy to do before. I should have done that. So, yeah. Okay. But you know what? I'm just going to add another one of these things. What do they call it here? Q1. Q1. I don't even know that they... Oh, down here they call it out. 2SA798. It's kind of an oddball part. Hard to find. But I guess I'm just going to go bite the bullet, go ahead and order another one of it, along with these other transistors on the lower half of the amplifier that have gone bad. So it seems like just the lower half got blown out this time. Everything on the upper half tests okay, but yeah, everything on the lower half tested okay last time, except for the thing I didn't test. So I'm wondering if that was the problem the whole time, that dual transistor Q1. I don't know. It's a distinct possibility. So anyway, I'm just going to order another one, and I'm going to replace all the transistors on the lower half of the amplifier here. And by lower half, I mean the stuff that's between the minus 70 volts and ground. The stuff on the upper half between the plus 70 volts and ground seems to be okay. So it seems to be just this stuff on the lower half. Some of these are going to be hard to source. I got a feeling some of these transistors have not been made in 30 or 40 years. But I will hunt them down and purchase them and put them in. And I'm not going to charge my buddy for this because this was my mistake. So yeah, this is becoming a personal challenge now, fixing this thing. So I don't care what it costs me. I want to see if I can get it up and running again. So I'm going to order the parts, and it's probably going to take weeks or months to get them because, you know, they are hard to find. They are on back order. They may have to come on a slow boat from China. Hopefully they won't be counterfeits. There's a big problem with that coming out of China these days with components. So I guess we will see how it goes. Yeah. Okay, so until the next time, hopefully we'll get this thing up and running again. So until next time, thanks for watching. Subscribe, give the video a like. Check out my other channel, Omega Geek 64. There are lots of good stuff going on over there too, lots of interesting stuff. Press the little bell icon in both places that YouTube makes you press to be notified when new videos come out. And I'll see you in the next video when hopefully I have some components to replace on this board. Bye.